I was too late. Xiao Zhan blames himself after Wang Yibo'S second collapse. The house had just begun to feel like home again. After weeks of hospital visits, press chasing shadows, and fans screaming outside their gates, there was finally silence. Xiao Zhan had started cooking again. Wang Yibo' was playing the guitar softly in the mornings. Their daughter had stopped asking if her father was going to die. But trauma never knocks. It slips in. Quiet. Unnoticed. That morning, everything seemed normal. Yibo' had woken up early, watered the plants, laughed at their daughter's crayon scribbles, kissed Xiao Zhan on the forehead. "I'm just heading to the agency," he had said. "Only a few hours. I'll be back before dinner." Xiao Zhan smiled. "I'll make your favorite soup." They didn't know it would be the last conversation before everything fell apart. The call came at 2:03 p.m. Xiao Zhan was still chopping vegetables. It was the same manager who had called the first time. "There's been another collapse. Yibo' is unconscious. It's serious." The knife dropped from his hand. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He just left everything as it was. Soup half prepped. Phone clutched tight. His hands shaking so badly he couldn't put the key in the car ignition on the first try. He drove like the road didn't matter. Like he could rewind time by speeding through it. By the time Xiao Zhan arrived, it was already too late. Wang Yibo' had been rushed into the emergency wing. His breathing was shallow. Eyes shut. Pulse weak. He collapsed in the elevator, the manager explained. He was alone for almost 5 minutes before anyone found him. His heart rate dropped dangerously low. Xiao Zhan stood there, frozen, as if reality hadn't fully reached him. Then, the doors burst open. Nurses ran past, pushing a stretcher. Wang Yibo'S body on it. A mask strapped to his face. His hands limp. His skin pale. For a split second, Xiao Zhan saw his entire life collapse again. He tried to follow. Security stopped him. The hallway was chaos. Screaming fans were already outside the hospital. News alerts were going off on people's phones. But Xiao Zhan couldn't hear any of it. "I was supposed to protect him," he muttered. "I told him to go. I said it was just a few hours. I should have known." A doctor finally came to him. "He's stable now," they said. "But his body is telling us something. This wasn't just stress. He's been suppressing trauma for too long. Emotionally, mentally, he's holding on by threads." Xiao Zhan didn't speak. He simply walked to the door of the ICU, pressed his palm to the glass, and watched the love of his life lie motionless once again. For the next 3 days, he didn't go home. He stayed beside Yibo'S bed, read to him, held his hand, spoke to him as though nothing had changed. On the second night, he broke down completely. "I was too late," he whispered. "I keep being too late. The first time I waited too long to go public. Then I waited too long to fight the hate. Now I waited too long to pull you away from all of this. And now you're lying here again. Because of me. Because I didn't protect you." A nurse entered quietly, saw his tears, didn't say anything, just brought an extra blanket. Outside, the world was spiraling. #pray for Wang Yibo' was trending. But so was #why did Xiao let this happen? People blamed him, called him selfish, too career-focused, a bad husband, a bad father. Old interviews resurfaced. Fan edits twisted the truth. Clips of Yibo' looking tired, looking broken, were stitched into montages with sad music. "Look at his eyes," people wrote. He was screaming for help for months. Xiao Zhan saw the clips. Every one of them. And every time, he felt himself sinking deeper. On day 4, Wang Yibo' finally stirred. Not much. Just a twitch of the fingers. A flicker beneath the eyelids. Xiao Zhan sat up instantly. "Yibo'." A soft groan. Then, a slow opening of the eyes. He looked around. Confused. Tired. Then he saw him. "Zhan." "I'm here," Xiao Zhan said quickly. "I've been here the whole time." Wang Yibo blinked slowly. You're crying. Xiao Zhan laughed through the tears. I haven't stopped. Later that night, as Wang Yibo rested again, Xiao Zhan stepped out into the hallway. He opened his phone, started recording. His voice calm, his eyes swollen. I've seen the posts. I've heard the opinions. Some of you blame me. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should have pulled him away from the spotlight sooner. Maybe I should have fought harder, louder, faster. But what I do know is that love is not about perfection. It's about staying. And I'm not going anywhere. He posted it. Didn't look at the comments. Then went back inside. And sat by Wang Yibo'S side again. A week later, they were discharged quietly. No press. No announcement. They returned home. This time. With a nurse. A therapist. And a boundary around their peace. Their daughter ran to them. Clung to Yibo'S leg. Then to Xiao Zhan's waist. You're staying this time, right? She asked. Wang Yibo knelt down. Looked her in the eyes. I'm not going anywhere. She smiled. Then held up a new drawing. This one had 4 stick figures. Xiao Zhan asked. Who's the 4th? Our piece, she said. She needs to stay too. Xiao Zhan discovers the person who broke Wang Yibo. Peace was never permanent. Not in their world. Not when love came with cameras and enemies dressed as fans. Not when the past refused to stay buried. Wang Yibo was home. Breathing. Healing. But quieter than ever before. He had started writing in notebooks again. Filled pages with lines no one else saw. Sometimes he stared at the garden for hours. Sometimes he flinched at sudden noises. And sometimes he whispered names in his sleep. Xiao Zhan noticed. He wrote them down. Kept a record. 3 nights ago. One name returned. Li Wei. It meant nothing to Xiao Zhan. But to Wang Yibo, it brought a tremble to his voice. A pause in his breath. And silence that lasted too long. Xiao Zhan waited until Yibo was asleep again. Then he opened one of the journals. Not to invade. But to protect. Inside were sketches. Not of places. But of people. One face repeated. Over and over. Eyes blank. Smile sharp. Always standing just a few feet behind a drawn version of Yibo. It wasn't fan art. It wasn't fantasy. It was a memory. A threat. A shadow. The next morning, Xiao Zhan confronted him gently. Who is Li Wei? Wang Yibo looked up slowly. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he leaned back in the chair, closed his eyes, then said, when I was 19, he was everything. And then, he tried to ruin me. Silence. I thought he was gone, Yibo added. But I saw him. The night I collapsed. I wasn't just dizzy. I panicked. He was standing at the far end of the parking lot. And I froze. Xiao Zhan sat down slowly. He followed you? I don't know. Or maybe he just waited for the right time. And now, I think he's watching again. That night, Xiao Zhan checked every camera on their property. Called for security upgrades. Requested private surveillance from a trusted firm. By morning, he received confirmation. Someone had been seen, loitering just beyond the fence line. More than once. Tall. Alone. Face partially hidden by a cap. They didn't try to break in. They just watched. And disappeared. The footage arrived in Xiao Zhan's inbox at 2:14 a.m. He opened it. Paused it at the clearest frame. And felt the chill rush up his spine. It was the same face from Yibo'S drawings. Same frame from the leaked hospital footage. The same stranger who smiled when Yibo collapsed. Li Wei was real. And he was back. Xiao Zhan didn't tell Wang Yibo immediately. He knew it would set off a panic spiral. But he couldn't hide it for long. He sat with him the next morning. Placed the printed frame on the table. Waited. Wang Yibo stared. Then nodded slowly. He wants something, he said. He never lets go without taking something first. What does he want now? I don't know. But last time. He wanted to be famous. And he threatened to destroy me if I didn't help him climb. Did he? I paid him off. Disappeared from his world. Changed my phone. Blocked everything. But he knew where to find me now. Outside. The world thought they were healing. #Strong Together was trending. Fans were sharing artwork. Letters. Memories. But beneath the surface, the real war had begun. Xiao Zhan scheduled a meeting with the private investigator. I want to know who he talks to. Where he goes. What he's planning. Before he strikes again. The investigator nodded. We'll watch him 24/7. Quietly. Meanwhile, Xiao Zhan returned home. Sat beside Yibo' again. You're not going through this alone this time. Yibo' looked up. Promise. Xiao Zhan held his hand tightly. Always. But just as they began to feel like they were reclaiming control, a letter arrived. No name. No address. Just the words. You chose the cameras over me. Now I'll give them a show. Inside was a photo of their daughter, taken through a window. And just like that, the nightmare deepened.